Hello, movie barfs, and welcome back to the channel. So, some time back, I heard a friend make a comment that he wished there were remakes of the original trilogy, episodes 4 to 6, so that they can look more updated with better effects like in the prequels. That got me thinking, although the effects are dated and not as polished as the prequels, I still feel that the lightsaber duels in the original trilogy from episodes 4 to 6 are superior to the ones in the prequels and even in the Rey saga. And if you ask why, well, in one word, emotion. The lightsaber duels in the original trilogy all have a rich depth of backstory to them, with a ton of emotional tension between the characters. There's a lot of verbal banter between the characters, and often the fights take on more meaning than just wanting to kill the opponent. It's often more about the dialogue than the actual fight itself. Now, of course, they're not as well executed and oftentimes look amateurish. Compared to the prequels, the original trilogy duels sometimes look like kids fighting in a playground. In short, more substance over style. The prequels, while having the advantage of special effects and more choreography, have all the good stuff like backflips and force-powered jumps. But they usually don't have the same emotional weight behind them that the fights in the original trilogy do. In short, more style over substance. Look at the duel between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in Episode 4, for instance. The setup for this duel begins way before the characters even meet on the Death Star. Earlier on in Obi-Wan's hut on Tatooine, we see the guilt and regret on his face as he's reminded of his failure with his apprentice, knowing that he was responsible for the fall of the Republic and the extinction of the Jedi. Now, to be frank, this fight is executed very simply. Compared to their fight on Mustafar when they were jumping around like wild rabbits, here they look like two old men fighting with their canes. Obi-Wan even does a spin around near the start of the fight, which honestly is laughable. But then again, this isn't meant to be some epic, awe-inspiring spectacle of a fight. It's simply about an aging past his prime Jedi Master coming back to face his mistake that has haunted him for decades. An evil Sith Lord finally getting his chance for revenge. Two friends who used to be as close as brothers but are now in a situation where only one can walk away alive. And I don't know about you, but Obi-Wan in Episode 4 was one of those characters that you grew an emotional attachment to quickly. Definitely in large part due to Alec Guinness's charisma and brilliant performance. It's hard not to feel a tinge of sadness when he sacrifices himself. And that makes this scene a lot more impactful. Now, compare this with the lightsaber duel at the climax of The Phantom Menace. This fight has a lot of things going in its favor, most notably the on-screen debut of the double-bladed lightsaber made famous by Darth Maul. It's also the first time we see a 2v1 lightsaber duel, with expertly timed choreography between the actors. The orchestral score is also majestically brilliant, one of the most memorable in film history. But in spite of all that, the fight lacks the emotional tension that we saw in Episode 4. For starters, here we know almost nothing of Darth Maul. Throughout the whole movie, he probably only spoke about 3 sentences prior to this. His motivation is basic and straightforward, to kill Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. But there is no past history between the characters, no dialogue between them, it's a completely speechless duel. The fight is impressive, no doubt, taking place in a vast generator room with these massive vertical beams. But after a while, it does get a bit stale, and the fight scenes also take it a little too far in terms of the choreography. There are times, especially at the end, where it looks blatantly staged and it really takes you out of the moment. Sometimes it looks more like a well-rehearsed dance performance instead of a fight. After a while, it just becomes visual noise, or as I said earlier, style over substance. I also find it kind of a letdown that Darth Maul dies when Obi-Wan jumps up to slice him with his master's lightsaber. We really have to suspend our disbelief by accepting that Darth Maul, who was agile enough to take on 2 Jedi at the same time, just stands there dumbfounded while Obi-Wan takes at least a few seconds to jump up, force grab the lightsaber, turn it on, and make his killing blow. That's a good few seconds there that even a senior citizen would have seen coming. Moving on to Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, here we have a newly trained Luke Skywalker coming to face Vader for the first time. He knows it's a trap from Leia's warning, but out of overconfidence or pure stupidity, he still enters. Most of the tension comes from how outmatched Luke is compared to Vader. He towers over Luke literally in height and figuratively in skill, and basically makes a toy out of Luke for the whole fight. This whole time, as the audience, you feel the fear and the struggle that Luke undergoes. The struggle of a newly trained Jedi apprentice having to deal with the insurmountable task of standing toe-to-toe with the second most feared man in the galaxy. And then later we have Vader dropping one of the most shocking revelations in Hollywood history. A key reason why this lightsaber battle is so memorable. We take it for granted that Vader is Luke's father, but imagine the shock audiences must have felt back when the film was first released in 1980. To keep spoilers from leaking, the filmmakers even had the original line to say, "Obi-Wan killed your father," instead of, "I am your father." And Luke has to deal with not only this shocking revelation, but the fact that Obi-Wan from the previous movie was not quite the saint he appears to be. But just like everyone else, he has his own skeletons in the closet. Now, compare this with the lightsaber duel at the end of Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. This is the first time we see Count Dooku in action, and he quickly dispatches an overzealous Anakin with a jolt of Force lightning. It's a somewhat special moment, as before this, the only individual who has used Force lightning has been the Emperor in Episode 6. After Obi-Wan is immobilized, we then get to see Anakin duel Count Dooku with two lightsabers at the same time, another historic first in Star Wars history. While this portion of the scene is cool, it does go a bit too far. It seems that George Lucas was trying to put on some creative light show with the flares of the lightsaber blades, but it falls flat and looks more try-hard instead of cool. And once again, the characters look too choreographed, and the fight comes off as more of a dance than the characters trying to hack and slash each other. Just like the Darth Maul duel, it's visual noise and style over substance. The only redeeming aspect was getting yet another historic fight in Star Wars history. Yoda himself in a lightsaber duel with his unique style of jumping around like a jackrabbit to make up for his smaller size. Episode 3's lightsaber fight was fine overall. It's the best of the prequels by far. The emotional tension was there, no doubt, but the fight seemed to drag on and on. Honestly, it could use some trimming in the editing room. After a while, the emotional tension gave way to more acrobatics and hopping around crumbling lava platforms. And then we have this part where I just have no idea what they're doing with their arms. It's moments like these that take you out of the scene and dampen its effect. The score here is even more haunting than in The Phantom Menace, a trend that was sadly missing in Attack of the Clones. There isn't much to say about Episode 6 that hasn't been said already, but some of the best parts were Luke hiding in the shadows, one side of his face in the light, the other side in the dark, a perfect symbolism of the conflict going on inside. When Luke rages out, this fight scene isn't anything fancy. There's no over-the-top CGI or choreographed stunts. It's just one guy swinging wildly in a hack-and-slash manner, and it works. John Williams' score that plays in the background is just hauntingly majestic. More goosebumps have been stimulated from this scene than any other in movie history. The look on Vader when Luke is getting fried is just priceless. Technically, there is no expression, no change in facial features as he's covered by a mask, but the way the scene is cut with the music and Vader looking back and forth between Luke and the Emperor clearly shows the conflict he's going through. Well, that's all for the prequels. As for the Rey trilogy, this will be pretty quick. The one in The Force Awakens was underwhelming. Finn wielding the lightsaber was just, It was a bit of a stretch of an imagination that he survived. If his wound came at just a slightly different angle, who knows, maybe John Boyega would have been Disney Plus. And then we have OP Ma Rae-Soo already beating Kylo Ren in just her first lightsaber battle. Great stuff. In The Last Jedi, in the throne room battle, the fight's sort of cool, but most likely you were still dumbfounded by the sudden and random death of Snoke. The final duel between Luke and Kylo Ren feels empty, and rightfully so, since it's all just a hollow illusion. And it's depressing that this is the undignified end of Luke Skywalker. As for The Rise of Skywalker, I've only seen the final duel once, and I don't have much interest in watching it again. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. So, to sum up this rant, lightsaber battles should never be just about colorful laser swords clashing against each other by choreographed actors. That helps, but at its core, the best lightsaber battles are the ones fueled by strong character conflicts. It's never just about the flashing spectacle, but the emotional backstory behind them. So, what do you think, folks? What makes a lightsaber fight entertaining for you? Which is the best one in your opinion? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you got anything out of this video, please help to give it a like. It only takes a click, but it goes a long way in helping out the channel. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you're new, and see you in the next one.